All right, hello everybody. This is your favorite Bronze Age comic book podcast, Flea Market Fantasy. I am your co-host, Mike-DELL, and as always, I'm joined by
Mike-DELL of the LCS Hockey Radio Show.
That's right, and continuing the theme of Kings of Atlantis, we are now jumping over to Marvel's King of Atlantis. So Mike-DELL, why don't you tell everyone what we're reviewing this week?
Yeah, last week we did Aquaman, so I figured this week we'll do the real King of Atlantis, Submariner.
Yes.
Namor the Submariner, and we're going to be doing issue 49 from 1972.
Right.
So it's pretty early. We're getting close, because again, the Bronze Age, we always like to say 70 to the end of the 80s, even though it's usually, 86 is usually?
Yeah, it depends who you ask, yeah.
But so we're getting close to the beginning here, 72.
Yeah, I was actually going to check the date on this because it felt definitely 60s-ish, eh?
Yeah. But, so it's pretty good. Now, how much do you know about the Submariner, Mike-DELL?
I've never, to be honest, I haven't read tons of Submariner. But the coolest thing about him, and I'm sure that you'll talk about this, is that he's Marvel's first superhero.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, kind of. Depends if you count robots.
Well, we'll have to. Okay, well, once you get to your research, I'll have to verify some of those facts. But anyway.
Yeah. All right. But Mike-DELL, when we're done with this episode, I want you to make new business cards with Submariner on them.
Oh yeah. Okay. Maybe. We'll see about that.
So here's something I didn't know, Mike-DELL.
Okay.
That Submariner's real name is Namor Mackenzie.
Okay, I thought every Charlie nobody on the street knew this. How did you not know this?
I knew his name was Namor. I didn't know his last name was Mackenzie. So he's like the younger brother of Bob and Doug Mackenzie of Strange Brew.
That's right.
I had no idea. Right. No idea.
Yeah, I knew that.
Because he likes to call people hosers and stuff underwater, and it's just weird. But now it makes sense.
Exactly.
Mackenzie. Yeah, I just thought he was Namor, just an Atlantean dude. I didn't know he had a last name. I had no idea that he was part human, part Atlantean.
I knew that. Yeah, that's why he's a mutant. That's why he's got wings on his feet.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute, because that's weird as well.
Okay.
Because technically he is Marvel's first mutant. I don't know if he's the first superhero, but first mutant.
Well, have you come across a comic called Motion Picture Funnies Weekly?
Yes. Well, let's get into that.
Sure.
That was technically his first appearance, although it kind of never got published. It got scrapped. Motion Pictures Funny Weekly #1 was meant to be distributed through movie theaters.
Right.
And we should mention Submariner was created by Bill Everett.
That's right.
Who I'm sure everyone knows also created Daredevil with Stan Lee.
I forgot about that. That's right, yeah.
So, and he created Namor in response to Carl Burgess's creation of the Human Torch. So if you count the Human Torch as a superhero, Human Torch is first.
But this is puzzling because the Human Torch didn't appear until Marvel Comics #1, and that came out after Motion Picture Funnies Weekly.
But I guess he created it because he knew Burgess created the Human Torch, and he wanted to have a water response to his fire.
Oh, okay. I'll have to investigate this. Okay.
But again, like that Motion Picture's funny. It got scrapped. It was never a thing. And then they took the story from that and ran it in Marvel Comics #1, 1939. And that was Timely Comics' first book.
Okay.
And Timely Comics was, of course, would eventually become Marvel.
Right.
If you follow the thread. Because then it went from Timely to Atlas, right?
Yes. In the 50s, yeah.
And then Marvel in the 60s. All right, so, hey, Mike-DELL, do you know anything about that Marvel Comics #1 from 1939?
I just know that it's the first appearance of Submariner and the android Human Torch. I think it's also the first appearance of the original Angel, right?
Correct, the original Angel. Right. I had no idea there was another Angel, but yes, this is not Angel of X-Men fame. Right. This was a private detective who also went by the superhero name The Angel.
Right.
He didn't have wings or anything. He wore like a blue outfit. And also Kazar is in this.
Yes.
but it's not the Kazar, it's a Kazar.
Yeah, you're right. That's true. I didn't know that till later either. You're right. It's a slightly different one than the one from X-Men and all that. Yeah.
And his last name was Rand, which is kind of weird because then, Danny Rand of Iron Fist.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah. But no relation. Although his origin's kind of similar. His parents and him were traveling and he got dropped off in the jungle. And so anyway. But that's for the Kazar podcast we'll be doing.
Okay.
So Namor, though, he was one of Timely Comics' big three heroes with Captain America and the Human Torch.
Mm-hmm.
So he's one of the big three.
That's right.
And Bill Everett also drew inspiration from Samuel Taylor Coleridge's poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know how he got the name Namor, Mike-El?
Spelling Roman backwards.
That's exactly right. Because he thought he was trying to come up with like a noble sounding name, and he was just writing a bunch of stuff backwards, and he's tried Roman. He's like, I like the way that looks, Namor.
Mm-hmm.
So the character's history, his father is Leonard Mackenzie, and he was a deep sea explorer searching the Antarctic for a lost ship that had been searching for vibranium. And his ship's activity caused Atlantean Emperor Thakor, Thakkor if you're scoring at home, to send his daughter, Princess Fen, to see what was going on. Leonard Mackenzie and Princess Fen fell in love and made sweet, sweet love, Mike-El. But then a battle ensued between the Atlanteans and Leonard's ship, which I believe was called the Oracle, if I'm remembering properly. And that would tie into Namor's John Byrne run. Remember when he did the Namor series? Because I think he operated a company called Oracle.
Okay.
But anyway, so Leonard and this Princess Fen made the sweet, sweet love, but she thought he died in battle. She returned to Atlantis pregnant. Look out. And she gave birth to Namor. And I guess in Atlantean culture, Namor means avenging son.
Mm-hmm.
That's trouble. He was originally an anti-hero, Mike-El.
Mm-hmm.
He battled surface dwellers in defense of Atlantis. But let's go back to that origin.
Sure.
Of an Atlantean princess having the sex with a mortal man.
Kind of sounds familiar.
Birth to the king of Atlantis. Huh.
Where have I heard that before? I can't place it.
Yeah. Huh. Aquaman.
Oh, right.
Aquaman ripped it off.
Damn.
Again, Namor came out in 39. Aquaman came out in 41. But as we explained last week's episode, Aquaman's first origin was different. He was the son of a marine biologist.
Right.
Who did experiments on him. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right. I might have to revise my business card, eh?
Yes.
Jeez.
So then I think Aquaman's origin changed around 1958-ish.
Right.
And they just stole it from Namor. That's what they did. They stole it, Mike-El. Defend it. Defend your hero, Mike-El.
He's got green fins on his legs. How about that?
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. He's got does he have green fins where Namor has the wings?
Yeah, but they're part of his costume, so.
Yeah, that's what I figured. All right. Anyway, we'll get into more about how Aquaman ripped off Namor in a minute. But, because I guess Aquaman technically was kind of, Namor, personality-wise, Namor's a dick, right?
Yeah.
He's an arrogant prick and smug and hot-headed, I think you would say. Prone to rage. So Aquaman seems like the nicer fella.
Definitely.
But I guess they did change that over the years, though. They tried to give Aquaman more of an edge, and he would kind of do stuff against surface dwellers, quote unquote, but never to the point that Namor did, right?
Right, exactly.
Because Namor was a legit villain for some periods of time.
Yes, I mean, he fought the FF, and obviously in this issue, he's teaming up with Dr. Doom. So, yeah, he was basically a villain, yeah.
Yeah, so Aquaman never, crossed into that territory.
Never, no.
So there you go. There's a big difference there, I guess. But even though he was originally an anti-hero, Mike-El, during World War II, he fought alongside Captain America and the original Human Torch and Bucky and Toro. And I think they were called the All-Winter Squad, right?
That's right. That's right.
So he was fighting them filthy Nazis. And then later on, years later, they would retcon it even more to make it like so he was part of the Invaders.
Right, right.
That was a whole other series. Your boy Roy Thomas.
That's right. Retconning.
Yeah.
Right.
So then in Fantastic Four, he had his own series there for a little bit in the 40s. I think from like 41 to 48, and then that got canceled. And then he popped back up again in like 54-ish. And then he didn't return to Marvel continuity, like mainstream Marvel comics, until Fantastic Four, issue 4 from 1962.
Right.
And do you know the storyline of that issue? That's
where Human Torch or Johnny Storm is kind of just hanging out around town. And doesn't he come across a homeless man?
Yeah.
And I think he uses his fire to burn away his facial hair and his hair, and he realizes it's the Submariner, right?
That's right. It's a great little panel sequence of Kirby.
Yeah, I love it.
He's burning off his beard. And, oh my gosh, it's Namor. Mm-hmm. And he recognizes him somehow. And then Namor still, he lost his memory somehow. I think there's a villain called Mystic or something that gave him amnesia.
Okay.
So then to remind him of who he is, the Human Torch says, "Well, I'll just fly you out over the ocean and drop you in the water. Hope you can swim."
That's right. I forgot about that. Yep.
But it worked. Namor regained his mind and remembered that he was the king of Atlantis. But then he would still be a thorn in the side of the Fantastic Four, though. Why was he pissed at... I can't remember. Was he mad at the Fantastic Four then?
I don't remember, but it might have just been that he thought that they did something to Atlantis. Or didn't he try to find Atlantis and then it wasn't there or something? Or it was like abandoned. But you know what's funny?
Oh, you know what? I think what it was he went down. Once he returned down there to Atlantis, he found that it had been destroyed due to nuclear testing.
Right. But now this brings up my point about Aquaman last week. I'm pretty sure that in the actual stories from the 40s and 50s, he was not the king of Atlantis. So that was kind of just added in there, right? Like, I don't think he ever was involved with Atlantis, but I could be wrong about that.
Wait, what got added in there?
Like Atlantis itself, as far as I know, maybe I'm crazy, but I think that was added in later. Like, I don't think in those actual original stories, I don't know if Atlantis was mentioned, was it?
Oh, the Namor's original stories?
Yeah, Namor.
Correct. They didn't call it Atlantis, I think, until this Fantastic Four stuff.
There you go. What did they call it?
I don't know.
Okay.
Cleveland?
Okay, there you go. That's what I figured, yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, you are correct. Marvel didn't call it Atlantis until now.
Right.
This Fantastic Four stuff. But that's why he got mad. So he got mad at the surface dwellers for destroying Atlantis, and the Fantastic Four is represents all surface dwellers to him, I guess. And then didn't he try and kidnap Sue Storm and he wanted to marry her?
Yep, that's exactly what happened, yep.
Yeah.
And then I think the story climaxed with her, I think she was injured, and so he actually, either he rushed her to the hospital or he let them rush her to the hospital, and that's how the fight ended, is that he cared so much about Sue Storm that he didn't care if he won the fight. Isn't that nice? Yeah.
Now, do you think Sue Storm, she was kind of cool with it? I want to go with Namor. He's a lot cooler than Science Boy.
I think there was a bit of a love triangle, for a few, because I just read those issues last year. Yeah, there was definitely a love triangle for a while. And I think Reed hesitated proposing marriage to her because he was worried that she was actually in love with Namor.
Whoa, look at that.
Yep.
Do you know Namor's battle cry?
Actually, I don't. What is it?
Oh, Imperious Rex.
Oh, okay.
He would just scream that. Imperious Rex. And it's kind of like Imperious is kind of like the way they spell it with a U and no O-U-S. It's kind of just like a made up Latin word. So people will debate what it means. But basically what he's saying is I'm an imperial king. So you need to bow down before me.
Interesting.
Imperious Rex. Namor guest starred in various books because Marvel couldn't give him his own series until 1968. Because that's when publication and distribution restrictions were lifted. And I don't know why that is. I guess timely something, or I haven't, but I don't know.
So you said 68, right?
68.
Yeah, as far as I know, I'll tell you why. It's because Marvel Comics, their distribution was controlled by DC.
Oh, because was it an Aquaman thing?
No, it was what it was. I think what happened was DC somehow controlled the distribution, and so they forced them to only be able to publish like 8 comics per month. So that's why you had those double titles, like Tales of Suspense, that would have Iron Man and Captain America.
Oh, yeah, I never knew that.
Yeah, and then once 68 happened, I'm not sure if they went to a different distributor or what, but then that's why all of a sudden they gave Iron Man his own title, Submariner his own title, Hulk his own title. That's exactly why it happened.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
So the original Submariner series, which we will be discussing today, ran from 68 to 74, a span of 72 issues. Mm-hmm. And our buddy Bill Everett actually came back and was writing and drawing this series for a while.
That's great.
Like issues 51 through 55, and then he was still helping with co-plotting and stuff. But he got sick, and sadly he died like around issue 63, I think he did. And he was only 55 years old.
Oh, sad.
So sad. But yeah, it's pretty cool though that his career, he started out creating Submariner, and then right at the end of his life, he went back to doing them again. So
yep.
Pretty weird.
I like that.
The final issue, Mike-El, of this series, issue 72, featured an unofficial crossover with Aquaman.
Yes.
Would you like to explain this? Are you aware of this?
I don't know the exact details, but Stephen Skeets was writing Aquaman at the time, right? And then he went over...
Well, he wrote Aquaman. Aquaman series ended with issue 56 in 1971.
Okay.
So in the last issue of that series, he wrote a story where Aquaman was fighting this monster, and the monster was up on a satellite in space, and Aquaman pushes a button to blow up the satellite to supposedly kill the monster. So then, in Submariner 72 in 1974, almost 3 years later, Skeets is now writing that issue, and without telling anyone, he put in the issue that you see a panel of someone's finger pushing a button that blows up the satellite, and the monster falls back to Earth, lands in the ocean, and eventually reforms, and Submariner has to fight him.
Right.
So no one knew that he was doing this, but he just did it. And
I love that.
That's pretty awesome, yeah. Mm-hmm. So technically, this is the first ever Marvel DC crossover.
Right.
So that's pretty cool.
I think they did other ones like that. It might have been Justice League or something, and Avengers, where they did a similar thing, where they kind of just did like a secret crossover where, like, you know, a couple of the writers were buddies or something, or roommates, and they just wrote them as if it was a crossover.
It is pretty nuts that the same writer would write the final issue of both the Aquaman and Submariner.
Oh, it's crazy. I love it. Yeah.
It's strange. Now, Mike-El, Submariner has been part of various groups over the years. Can you name some of these groups?
Well, definitely the Defenders.
Yes, he was one of the first Defenders.
He joined the Avengers in the 80s.
Yep.
And then, the Invaders. We mentioned the Invaders, the All-Winter Squad.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
X-Men. He was part of the X-Men.
Oh, in the 2000s or something, right?
Yeah, and then he became part of the Dark X-Men.
Oh.
Which, I don't know what that is. I guess
don't
Norman Osborn was the leader.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And right away I'm thinking, well, isn't Norman Osborn dead? I don't know. I'm so confused.
He came back, yeah.
So much stuff. Then he was also part of the Phoenix Five with the X-Men. And
fortunate name.
Yeah, and he was part of the Illuminati. And who were in the Illuminati? Like Xavier, Reed Richards, Doctor Strange, Iron Man, Black Bolt.
Yeah. That's a Brian Michael Bendis idea.
Yeah.
Fortunately.
And then after that, he was in something called the Cabal with like Thanos. And were you aware of this?
No, I don't know anything about that. Nope.
Yeah, with a bunch of villains. He was in with them. Their mission was to destroy alternate Earths. So they went around destroying alternate Earths. I don't know. That's strange.
Oh, yeah, this is all past my time. So
yeah. So that now let's talk about his powers, because you mentioned he is considered a mutant.
Yes.
which there's some debate whether he should be a mutant. Basically, his powers are he has super strength and endurance and all that stuff. He can swim, He has the telepathic communication with sea animals like Aquaman does, but he doesn't seem to do it as much as Aquaman. Okay. Like Aquaman seems to really lean on it. Because why? Because Aquaman needs help. Namor doesn't. He can summon the abilities of sea animals as well. Like, this is weird, but he can pass electricity through his body like an electric eel.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he can do other stuff like that as well. And then more recently, he gained the power to control water, kind of like Hydro Man.
Okay.
He can manipulate water. He can also self-heal, like Wolverine.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that.
But he heals quicker when he's in water.
Okay.
It helps if he's in the water. And the big thing, though, about his powers is he can fly. That's something Aquaman cannot do.
Yes.
So obviously Namor, better than Aquaman.
And he flies via the feet on his...
no? He does have little wings on his ankles. And for a long time, people thought, well, that's why he flies. He's got those little wings on his ankles. But the reason why he's a mutant is because other Atlanteans cannot fly. Humans cannot fly. So how does he have this ability? He must be a mutant. And some people say the wings just help him steer when he's flying.
Okay.
But they're not the source of his flying ability.
I guess.
Because really, why wouldn't you just walk up to him and like crush those little wings? They're so tiny.
Good point.
You could just.
When you think about it, it's kind of gross, eh?
Yeah, it's real gross.
He had these little wings on his ankles.
And how do you ever find socks that fit?
Yeah, good point. That's funny.
So, but yeah, how do you feel about Namor being a mutant? Because then technically, in terms of publication, he's the first mutant.
Personally, I think they should just drop that idea.
Yeah, I don't think it.
Yeah, I think there was a time in the late '80s when the X-Men was so popular that they used to slap mutant on anything they could.
That's basically why they did this, right? Like they brought him back for his own series, and they needed him to be more popular. So let's call him a mutant. Right,
100%. And then like Cloak and Dagger, their book was called The Mutant Misadventures of Cloak and Dagger. And then you remember even Spider-Man, he was called the non-mutant superhero, just to get that word in there,
Well, didn't they try and say he was a mutant too, though, eventually?
No. They definitely never did. There were stories where people would suspect he's a mutant, like X Factor, but then they would prove he's not a mutant.
Oh, okay, good. Because that's nonsense. Frankly, I'm still mad that they revealed his parents are S.H.I.E.L.D. agents or something. That's
worst
terrible.
Spider-Man story ever, yep.
Yeah. So let's see, what else do we need about... I was going to say something else here about Namor. And
what about his ears? Did we talk about his ears?
Well, interestingly enough, Mike-El, if you look at Namor and his pointy ears and his eyebrows, he's basically Spock underwater, right?
Yes. Coincidentally, the actor's name is Leonard Nimoy,
which is very close to Namor.
Yeah.
It's very strange. Yet apparently Spock was not based on any way on Namor, because the original plans for Spock, he was supposed to have red skin and bald, and he wasn't supposed to look like. But so I don't know though. I find it hard to believe that someone who was doing the Star Trek makeup or design didn't reference Namor when they did it. Like it's like a spitting image of Namor.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's definitely strange. Now Namor has never appeared in any of the Marvel Universe movies. Because, do you know why, Mike-El?
I believe another company owns the rights, like Columbia or someone.
I believe it's Universal. Universal has the rights, but Marvel says that they can get them if they want them. Like it would just be more complicated, and they have put hints into other movies that Namor is in the universe.
Really?
I guess there was one in Winter Soldier 2. I can't remember what the reference was, and then they made one in Endgame even. Because during Endgame, Black Widow is getting a briefing about some earthquakes underwater off the coast of Wakanda.
Huh.
And one of Namor's most famous villainous acts was he flooded Wakanda. And so people are theorizing that Namor is going to be the villain in Black Panther 2.
Really?
That would be pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see if that happens. But yeah, Namor, he's probably the last big hero missing from Marvel movies, right? I mean,
I totally agree. I mean, if you think about all the 1960s Marvel characters that had their own solo books, right? The only ones who haven't got their own movies so far are Namor and, I mean, the original Marvel, right? Captain Marvel. But I mean, now that there's the Carol Danvers movie, that kind of counts. So I don't think there's anyone left. So yeah, you're right. I think he's the last one.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome, though, to see Namor.
Yep.
You know what would be even better, though?
What's
he was
that?
played by Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah, it would be. It would be nice, eh?
That'd have been great. I thought I had something else about... well, there was a crossover with Marvel and DC, Mike-El, where they had Namor fight Aquaman.
Right.
And we should mention, over the years, when they made Namor, they gave him more of an edge for a while. They had him grow out his hair and grow a beard. And then miraculously, within like a year, what did Aquaman do, Mike-El?
I think that's a coincidence.
A coincidence, my ass. He grew out his hair and grew a beard just to be like Namor.
You think so, eh?
Absolutely. So they did this crossover. I don't even know what it was called. I guess Marvel vs. DC. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I didn't buy it, but yeah, I think it was just Marvel vs. DC or DC.
Where they had the various characters fight, and then the fans would vote on the winner.
Right.
And Namor and Aquaman fought, but they gave Namor his old appearance just so, they wouldn't realize, oh, hell, Aquaman's really copying off of Submariner.
Yeah.
So I guess they brought in the Human Torch to burn off his beard and hair. And but do you know who won their fight, Mike-El?
I'm going to guess it was Namor.
It was Aquaman.
Really?
Yeah. And apparently he won by summoning a giant whale to jump out of the water and land on Namor.
That's what I would do. Yeah.
But again, Aquaman can't do it on his own. He has to call in help from his fish buddies.
Well, he has a different set of powers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're not as cool, and he can't beat anyone up with a left hook or a right cross. No, he has to do it with a whale. There you go. I'm gonna drop a whale on you. Fucking Aquaman.
I still love him. Nothing can dissuade me.
I like Namor much better because he's got that edge to him.
Have we mentioned the fact that his costume consists of green Speedos? That's it. They're
not Speedos. They're underpants.
Okay.
Like Speedos would be a little snugger, I would say.
Okay.
But
at least there's chainmail or whatever that's called, right? Or scale mail.
I think scales probably.
Right.
Oh, I know what I wanted to say about Namor. Because he is hot-tempered. He's known to these fits of anger. And by the way, the reason we have Captain America today is because of one of Namor's tantrums. Do you remember that?
Right. Yes. Didn't he throw the block of ice then? Right.
Yeah. He was swimming around and he saw some Eskimos on an iceberg or whatever, or like a big, and he saw them worshiping a guy in an big block of ice. And he said, "Why are you worshiping this guy?" And he just grabbed the block of ice and threw it in the ocean. And that thawed out Captain America.
That's pretty cool, actually.
So without Namor, no Captain America.
No Cap. Yeah.
But anyway, they try to explain why he's has these fits of anger, and they say it's because since he's half man and half Atlantean, if he spends too much time in the water, he starts getting crazy. And if he spends too much time on land, he starts getting crazy. He has to strike a balance between being on land and in water, or else he gets irritated.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Are we going to talk about really quickly the fact that he has a mother named Namora?
Sure.
Oh, wait. No,
his mother's Princess Fen.
No, wait, I'm wrong. Namora was his girlfriend, I think. Or sister? No, wait, I'm looking her up.
He had a girlfriend named Minera, I think, like with an M. She was an underwater alien, green amphibious alien, I think.
Oh, she's the cousin of Namor. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And then there's also Namorita. You know about her?
No, I do not.
She is somehow related as well. Yeah, I don't really know how. Oh, wait. Oh, she's Namor's niece. Namor. She was in the New Warriors. That's it. Okay.
Oh, that's right. Okay. But you know what he didn't have? Aqua Baby.
No, he didn't.
No Topo either.
Exactly.
Advantage Namor. That's right. Namor's better. And instead of like Black Manta, I guess his villain would be Tiger Shark or Stingray.
Yeah, I guess so. But neither one of them are particularly famous, right?
No. Basically, his most famous villains are actually heroes. You know, when he's fighting Fantastic Four, the Avengers, or something. But, all right, so that gets you caught up on all things Namor. Now, for this issue 49 of the Submariner, Doctor Doom is in here.
Right.
I think we've talked about Doctor Doom before and the Champions, but everyone knows Doctor Doom. I don't know. I guess the big thing about Doom and Namor, they kind of have a friendship in a way because they're both royalty, you know?
Right.
They're kings. So they have a similar outlook. And they were partnering on supervillains team up, right?
That's right.
1 through 13, I believe. They were buddies on there. So that's something. We also need to discuss AIM. Are you familiar with AIM, Mike-El?
Advanced Idea Mechanics.
You are familiar with AIM. How about that? Yeah, Advanced Idea Mechanics. And if you kids out there, you might remember them from the old comic books. These guys usually wore wacky hats.
Right.
They're like, how would you describe the hats, Mike-El?
Well, their suits are kind of like hazmat suits, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's a good way. Both like flat-topped hats.
Right.
Right. And their first appearance was Strange Tales 146 from 1966. And they were created by Lee and Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And they're basically an international group of science terrorists. Mm-hmm. They're trying to take over the world through technology. So look out for AIM. And the reason we bring up AIM is because in this issue, they are the lackeys of Modok.
Right. Great character.
I didn't know the background of Modok. Describe Modok for the kids who've never seen him.
Okay, so how do I explain this? He has a gigantic head.
Yes.
And tiny arms and legs.
Yes.
And his head is supported by kind of like, I don't know what this is. It's like a bodysuit. So he looks kind of like, almost like a Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah.
But he is like a real person. But I don't remember his origin, but his head is gigantic. And this character was used in Winter Soldier, but they chickened out and made him like a computer program.
They just put his face on the computer. Yeah.
Right. Like, I want to see the real Modok, you know?
Yeah. He's basically, like you said, he's kind of like a flying head. A giant head.
Right.
His real name is George Tarleton.
I didn't know that.
And his first appearance was Tales of Suspense 93, 1967, and he was created by Lee and Kirby. And he was an AIM engineer who was involved in the creation of the Cosmic Cube, which we'll talk about in a minute. But so in order to explore the powers of the Cosmic Cube, Tarleton was mutagenically altered by AIM to give him an enormous brain.
Really?
And his cranium swelled became so large that his frail body couldn't support it. So they gave him the Doomsday Chair. And that's that thing he's in, that exoskeleton. They call it the Doomsday Chair. He can like fly around in it and stuff and shoot lasers and whatnot. But
so cool.
Yeah. So his original name was Modok, M-O-D-O-C. Do you know what that stood for?
No, but I know it's something really cool.
Mental organism designed only for computing.
Okay.
But Modok went a little crazy from working with the Cosmic Cube, and he rebelled against, well, not just working with the Cosmic Cube, but because his brain was so powerful, he's like, why am I monkeying around? Why am I a lackey of AIM? So he took control of AIM.
Right.
Through AIM, and he became their leader. And then he changed his name to Modok, M-O-D-O-K.
Yeah, I know what this stands for.
Yeah, tell the kids what that stands for.
Mental organism designed only for killing.
That's right. That is awesome.
Yeah, great.
So great. Because you think if you're going to change your name, you'll change entirely. But no, he just changes one letter.
Yeah, I know, eh?
And makes it from computing to killing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. Great. Yeah. So then the Cosmic Cube, as we mentioned, its first appearance was Tales of Suspense 79, 1966, a creation of Lee and Kirby. It was created by AIM, and basically it made any wish a reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's been destroyed and reinvented and recreated many times over the years.
Right.
It's basically just a plot device, like an all-powerful thing to drive plots.
Right.
Yeah. And in this issue, Doctor Doom is trying to get it.
And we should also point out, in the movies, this is the Tesseract.
Oh, that's right. They just call it something else.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cosmic Cube sounds much cooler, but whatever.
Yeah, Cosmic Cube's probably most famous because of the Red Skull always trying to get it.
Right.
And he did have it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it could like manipulate reality and shape all kind. It's very powerful. It's kind of like the Infinity Gauntlet.
Well, this is the confusing thing is, in the movies, the Cosmic Cube is called the Tesseract, and inside is the Space Stone, which is one of the Infinity Stones.
Ah, look at that.
Which in the comics are the Infinity Gems, because they got to make everything, cooler in the movies, right?
But was an Infinity Gem ever in the Cosmic Cube?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
No, they just tried to tie everything together, right? Like they gave one to Loki's scepter, one to Doctor Strange, and on,
One to the Vision.
Right. That's right.
Now, in the comic books, was the Vision, that wasn't an Infinity Gem on his head? That was just
none of them were. No, that was all just for the movies. It's a decent idea, but it's definitely the comics, yeah.
So one other character we need to mention in this issue, Cindy Jones.
Yes, I've never heard of her.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you can regale us with the history of Cindy Jones.
No, unfortunately.
She's a very prominent character in Marvel history.
Okay.
Her first appearance was Submariner 47.
Okay.
In 1972, created by Jerry Conway and Gene Colan, the author and artist of this issue. And her last appearance was Submariner 49. So here we go. Last appearance of Cindy Jones.
Probably why I've never heard of her. Okay.
But basically, Namor, once again, Mike-El, because this story is over 3 issues. It started in issue 47. And Namor is once again suffering from amnesia.
I know. I noticed that.
I don't know what's going on with this guy.
Yeah, I know.
He's always losing his memory. I'm not sure why it happened in this issue either. I have no idea. I tried to research it and find it. I couldn't find an explanation, and I didn't feel like going back and reading all the issues. So I'm just going to pretend a flower pot fell on his head.
Okay. Okay.
Because that's the way it usually works in old sitcoms and stuff. So he got hit in the head with a flower pot, lost his memory, and Cindy Jones just happened to befriend him on the streets. I don't know. And they became buddies. And then Doctor Doom recognizes Namor, obviously, because they're chums, and he knows that Namor doesn't have his memory. So he's like, I want to use Namor to help me get the Cosmic Cube from Modok and AIM, because they have the Cosmic Cube. And so he kidnaps Cindy Jones and uses her as leverage to have Submariner help him.
Right.
And that's where we're at. So in this issue, Namor is inside AIM headquarters, which I think it's like an underwater headquarters or something.
Right.
And he's in there facing off against some Modok's androids when this issue begins. So that's where we're at. We're all caught up finally. A lot of backstory.
Right.
So let's talk about the cover, Mike-El.
Sure.
Do you know who drew this cover?
I'm going to guess. Oh, it wasn't Gene Colan. It was probably Gil Kane then?
That is correct. It's a Gil Kane cover.
All right.
And would you like to describe it for the kids?
Sure. We've got the title at the top, Submariner. We've got featuring the menace of Modok.
Yeah.
And then we see Modok kind of floating, and then these are his robots, right?
Yeah, his android minions.
Right. They're carrying Submariner, and Submariner's kind of like knocked out, and Modok is saying, prepare the chamber beyond. This day, Namor dies. And at the bottom it says, at last, the Cosmic Cube.
Yeah, how about that? And we got 20 cents. 20 cents. It's a lot of entertainment for 20 cents. And underneath that, we get the little character logo of a Submariner standing with his trident.
Very cool.
Pointed into the ground. And if you notice, Mike-El, but what do you notice anything else about this cover design?
Yeah, well, the art is all in a black square, and there's or a square, and there's black above and below it, which I know they did that for the annuals for a while, but I didn't realize they were doing it for the monthly books too. Well,
they were doing it in this Submariner for a little over a year.
Okay.
They ended it like, trying to think how many other issues after this. Not long after this, they quit doing it. Maybe maybe it was by issue like 63. So I guess that'd still be another year. I don't know. But they eventually get away from it. But they did it for over a year. How do you feel about it? Like there's a box, like to describe it, at the top of the book where the Submariner, the title is, it's all black.
Right.
And so then all the action's in a little box centered on the cover.
Yeah, so you lose about, I don't know, at least a quarter or a third of the page to this black, right?
And then some of the, like one of the androids' feet, a couple of them are overlapping the bottom edge, so they're outside the box.
Right.
And they always use the bottom space beneath the box to put in some more text. So on this one, we have At Last, the Cosmic Cube. It's an interesting idea. I don't think I like it, but...
well... I guess the thing is most of this art outside the box would have been covered by text anyway, but it's still, it feels a little bit restricting.
Yeah, it's interesting, but I'm not sure I like it.
Right.
Sorry, Mike-El, that brings us to the big splash page. Prince Namor, the Submariner, and this issue is called The Dreamstone.
Are we going to talk, did we talk about Gene Colan?
Well, I mentioned that he's the artist here. But we'll talk about him later.
Yeah, we'll talk about him later. Yeah, so basically, so written by Jerry Conway, drawn by Gene Colan, edited by Stan Lee. And then we have Frank Giacoia on inks and John Costa as the letterer. So yeah, as you said, Submariner is in AIM's headquarters. He's about to get attacked by these androids, and Modok is, egging them on. Androids attack him, So... basically, Submariner...
Yeah, we should say the androids are like, even though on the cover they're depicted as purple and stuff, in the book they're like all orange, basically, yellowish orange.
Yeah, that's a bit confusing, yeah. But yeah, same guys, yep, so they're all orange. They look exactly like people, except they have little, masks over their faces, kind of.
Yeah, because they're worried about the COVID.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, Submariner is, it's all fisticuffs, classic Marvel action here, right? Punching people out of the frame, I love it.
That panel, the first panel on page 2 is tremendous.
Yep. That's a very graceful shot there of him punching them. It's great. And then they're wrestling. You can see the next panel, they're grabbing him around his thigh, which is a little weird, but it's okay because they're robots. And then he's punching them away. And then, he's sparring with them. They're shooting lasers at him and he's ducking out of the way, And then basically he's still fighting. And then basically they subdue him, right? He can't fight them all off.
Well, Modok subdues him.
Right, Modok does.
The mind blast.
His dread mind blast, that's right.
But then Modok has to, it's weird because they don't have a panel of the mind blast hitting him. It's a real close-up picture of Modok, and you see a red flash, and then Modok says, he twists. He falls.
Yeah, you're right.
He's providing the commentary, the play-by-play. And then the next panel, Namor's already knocked out, and the androids are carrying him away on their shoulders. And
I love how you can see the bodies of one of them in the background all destroyed with pieces of them hanging out. It's kind of cool.
Yep.
And then you hear over the intercom, so now we cut over to Cindy Jones, the infamous Cindy Jones, right? Yes. So this is Namor's newfound friend, who she's trying to plot an escape from Doom's entrapment. So she's in Dr. Doom's headquarters. And then she hears an announcement come over from Modok. Attention, Dr. Doom, if you've any fealty for your amphibious ally, I suggest we hold a meeting. And so then it's funny because I really found Dr. Doom's characterization different in this issue than what I'm used to. Oh. He's definitely more, fallible and kind of, we'll get to that later, but in most of the stories I read, he's so powerful and so infallible, it's almost boring. But in this issue, I like the way they write him, or the way Jerry Conway writes. So yeah, anyway, we get some weird storytelling, like you just said. We don't really see where Cindy Jones is. We see a close-up of Dr. Doom. Then all of a sudden, he's flown a jet to the top of AIM headquarters, right? and he's getting out, and he's entering this headquarters through this stairway that goes down into the headquarters, right?
Yes.
So he comes down, he starts chatting it up with Modok. And basically, he explains to him that Modok explains that he has Namor, and what's his name? Dr. Doom's like, I've come to talk. You know what I want. And Modok's like, you want what you cannot have. You were a fool to come here, Doctor. You made a blunder my android children would never have made. And then so basically, so
yeah, Doom wants the cosmic cube.
That's what I was just about to say. Yeah,
that's what he wants.
He wants the cosmic cube, right? And Modok has captured Submariner, and Dr. Doom is loyal to him, so he's going to try and rescue him.
Yeah, and Doom gets into this big speech about maybe that what makes him human, and he'll embrace that, unlike his androids. Doom is at least human. Yeah,
Doom is usually more cold-hearted than that. So maybe, yeah,
that's a good point.
But seems different. Yeah. So then basically Modok activates he hits a button, and he unleashes all of these robot androids or whatever they are to fight Dr. Doom. He gives them a side slap sock, and he starts fighting back. And again, now it's more fisticuffs, right? Fighting these androids. And
look, on the next page, Mike-El, we get a scene of Doom's men getting ready to lower themselves into the AIM headquarters. And now Doom's men are colored purple and orange. Do you think there was confusion on the cover
that could have been, yep.
Like they covered them as Doom's men instead? But this is weird because we now get in the POV of just an unnamed Doom henchman.
Right.
Like we even get an internal monologue from him. And so that's strange to go into a POV of, and I guess what do we learn here that's important?
Well, he's talking about, you talking about Kenner?
Well, he's talking about a guy named Kenner, but this is not Kenner.
No, Kenner is missing, right.
Yes. So I guess that's the key info we get, that Kenner is missing.
Right. Who we didn't know before this scene, but yeah.
I guess we needed to get into someone else's POV for that, but
yeah. Yeah, so this is what you were calling in an earlier episode. What did you call this? Bouncing around or something?
Head hopping.
Head hopping.
In the writing.
Yeah, it's sloppy, but yeah, I guess it's the only way to get across this information, right?
Well, I don't know, because I mean we've clearly seen Kenner in previous issues, and then we see him now in a couple other pages where you could just, cover that ground with narration,
Sure.
But whatever. That's what they chose to do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now we see Namor tied up by the androids, by the Modok's robots.
Right.
But he needs to come up with a plan how he can escape. So what does he do, Mike-El?
So I love this. He says to one of the robots, "You, bring me water. I need to drink. Or don't you know that things alive need liquid to live?" And I love how then Jerry Conway added in this bubble, this thought bubble, "He does not answer, but his actions speak. Now if he brings it close enough, there is a supreme being, and in this hour at least he's on Namor's side." Smash! He breaks the glass, right?
This is weird. First of all, when Namor says that thing about living things need to drink, it's almost like he's trying to take a dig at the android robot.
Right.
I need to drink, not like you filthy robot. But like he's a robot, he's not going to care.
Right.
So when the robot brings him water, he brings it to him in this weird test tube shaped thing.
Right.
And I guess it's closed. I'm so confused by this, because why couldn't Namor just drink the water? But instead, he has to headbutt it with his head to break it open.
I know. If you just look at the art, it's more like the robot was doing something else with that water, and then Namor broke it. That would make more sense. So
but
maybe
is this one of those Marvel method things that we're confused?
I think so. Yeah, I think Gene Colan meant it to be what I said.
Yeah, for those who don't know the Marvel method, basically Stan Lee would talk to his artist for 5 to 10 minutes and say, "Here's what we want."
Yeah.
Now you go and do it. You go create 20 pages of art, and then when the art's done, they would send them back to Lee, and then he would put in the dialogue and script it.
Right.
Yet he would take credit for writing everything.
This is true. Yes.
So yeah, maybe Colan, when he created it, he thought of what you said, like the guy's just walking nearby with some water or something,
right?
And Namor headbutts it and cracks it. Because really, if you're going to give him a drink of water, just drink. Because the key point here is Namor gets power from water.
Right.
Like he becomes stronger when he's around water. So when the water spills on him, he regains his strength and busts out of his shackles.
Right.
And I like that panel. That's a cool image of him breaking through out of the shackles. He looks pissed.
And then smashing into the robots. Screw 'em, right? Yeah. That's great.
I love the art here.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. And then so then he
this is great too. This is classic comic book stuff
where he finds a button labeled Cosmic Cube.
Yes.
And then he hits the button, and then this little door opens up.
Yep.
And then he sees something. No, never did I dream. No, and then it just cuts away. And then I love the narration. He who looks into the eyes of the Gorgon will interest us later. Presently, we turn to the worried Cindy Jones. I love that. So yeah, she's in prison and she's kind of looking at her guard or whatever.
Yeah, first of all, we got to go back to the button labeled Cosmic Cube.
Okay,
that's the best. That's the best. I mean, because really, it's Modok's headquarters. He's the only one who would be monkeying with it. Androids don't need a labeled button saying Cosmic Cube. It's just so apparently that label's just there for Modok, but he's supposed to be so smart with his brain, he's going to forget what button is for the Cosmic Cube. It's great. I just love it.
The thing is, this is the kind of thing they would have on the Adam West Batman.
Yes, absolutely.
But this is serious. That's what makes it awesome. I love it.
So then, so Cindy Jones has to come up with a plan to get out of her little cell there. So what does she do, Mike-El?
What does she do? Wait.
She hikes up her skirt.
Oh, right. Yeah. Maybe, yeah. And then you can see the guy's face. I love that, right? Look on the guy's face.
Yeah. So then we cut away from Cindy Jones again. We'll get back to her in a minute. But there's a little note here from Stan Lee, too. It happened last issue, but we can't talk about it now.
Damn. Yeah, I love that. And then we cut back to Dr. Doom.
Well, I should say the notes were referencing Cindy Jones in her thought bubble. She says that Namor saved her from a nightmare.
Yeah.
Now she has to try and save him,
Right. A little bit, yeah.
So now we're Dr. Doom again.
Right, and then he's like, more androids? Your penchant for the mechanical amazes even me, Modok. Amazes, but unfortunately does not amuse. So now he starts fighting more robots, right?
And I love that picture on the next page where he's extending his arm and shooting lasers at the androids. Right. I just love the weight and the thickness of his armored gauntlet there, the glove.
Right. Yeah.
It looks really cool.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. And then the next panel is great of him shooting 3 or 4 of them there. That's really cool. And then the next panel at the bottom is straight out of How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. The way he's standing confronting Modok, that's great, eh?
Yeah, you stand alone.
Mm-hmm. And then of course he shoots his lasers or whatever at Modok, and then Modok vanishes, and then we realize Modok was never actually Modok. Modok is talking to him through a TV screen. That was just I don't know if that was an illusion or what that was, but he's gone.
I wasn't sure either if he teleported somehow or if it was just a hologram. I was confused as well.
Yeah, I think it's a hologram, but who knows? Yeah. So then Dr. Doom's buddies or his minions, they kind of meet up with him, and then and then we cut over. And now we finally see Kenner. Right?
Yes, Kenner.
So Kenner is actually working for Modok, right?
No.
Or no, Dr. Doom, but he's just pretending he's working for Modok, right?
No.
What?
This is where this gets confusing. He's pretending to work for Dr. Doom. He's supposed to be part of Dr. Doom's crew.
Okay.
Right? But he's secretly working for someone else, but it's not Modok.
Oh, okay.
And would you like to know who he's working for?
Who's he working for?
Well, I would like to know, too, because they never explain.
Oh, okay.
I researched the character Kenner, and he's only in this little story, and they said they never reveal who he is working for.
Interesting. Great. Okay. Huh.
But he's supposed to be undercover at Doom, and his mission is to kill Namor.
Huh.
That's his mission.
Interesting.
But we never find out why or who he really is.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it's just one of those stories they just drop and never resolve. So
awesome. I love it. Okay. And it comes back later. Yeah, like this is actually a crucial part of the story, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pivotal. Yeah.
Yeah, and so anyway, so now Doctor Doom. So what is he doing here? He's got his little like laser scalpel thing.
Yeah,
and
he calls it something. He has a, what does he call it?
The
driving rays of my submolecular disintegrator plunge nearer to my goal.
Right, because he's trying to get to the Cosmic Cube, right? And then Kenner, great name by the way, he comes up behind him and hits him in the head with like, it's sort of like a crowbar, but it's just a big metal beam.
Yeah,
right?
lead pipe, bang.
Yeah, lead pipe. And he hits it, this is kind of like violent. He hits him in the head many times.
Yeah.
Like,
now, I love Gene Colan's art. And the panel of him cracking Doom over the head for the first time, the perspective on the lead pipe is all screwy.
Yeah, it's a little sloppy. And it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, because the way it's situated in his hand, it would have to be like made of rubber to be bending like this.
Right, you're right. Because his hand is straight at the reader, but the pipe is kind of like towards the reader. Yeah, you're right. Doesn't make sense.
But still, I love Gene Colan.
Yeah.
So Kenner just starts wailing on Dr. Doom, hitting him repeatedly in the back of the head with this lead pipe.
Kind of gross, yeah. And then he basically comes across.
Well, let's read the description. Read the little description.
Okay.
The narration part of it.
Yeah.
It's pretty
the
good.
Sentence ends. Only now does Kenner feel the strangely consuming warmth from beneath him. Only now does he turn, his mind going blank at the spectacle he has unwittingly become a part of. He feels the warmth crawling over his spine like a thing alive. Then he feels nothing. Nothing save an overwhelming urge to scream. A need which abruptly ends when he does.
Yeah, so Doom was digging in to try and get to the Cosmic Cube, but Kenner knocked him unconscious. But Doom had done enough work that the Cosmic Cube started to burn through. And so Kenner was able to look into its power, and he just disintegrates.
Right.
He turns into ashes.
Yeah, he's gone.
So basically, Kenner saved Doom's life.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, look, I didn't realize this. So yeah, her hiking up her skirt worked.
Yeah, so we cut back to Cindy Jones, and the guard has his arm around her, and he's like, "Hey, why don't we go for a walk, lady?" Or he calls her sister. Hey, sister, what say you and me, ... go for a walk.
Yeah, and she's like, I've got a better idea. I'll go for the walk, and you can stay here. And she knocks him out, right?
Yeah, she's got her high-heeled shoe behind her.
Shoe, yeah.
She cracks him right in the face. I really don't know if that would knock him out. It would fuck up his face, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it'd knock him out, no.
But maybe she's wearing one of those, vibranium-laced high-heel shoes.
Exactly.
Just knocked him unconscious. So then she sneaks down into the AIM headquarters because she was on that ship that, Doom landed. You said he landed on top of the headquarters. Like she was up in that ship. So she comes down and she's looking for Doom. Well, she's looking for Namor, but she stumbles upon Doom. And she sees that his feet are burning, Mike-El. He's getting a hot foot from the Cosmic Cube.
Right. Okay.
but he's passed out. He can't get up. So she's trying to help Doom, and she's trying to pull him away from the Cosmic Cube.
Right, yeah. So she basically pulls him to safety. And then we cut back over to Namor, who is still fighting robots, right?
Yeah, I love
androids.
Just fight more androids.
Yep, he knocks out a couple more of them, and now finally he gets to the big boss, right, Modok. Yeah. So Modok shoots him with a laser, and then Namor strikes, right?
Yeah, Namor doesn't care. He's getting hit by this laser by Modok, but he just doesn't care. He's just powering through it. Because why, Mike-El? He's Namor, the king of Atlantis, way better than Aquaman.
Well, some might say. So then we cut back to...
he picks up Modok and just throws him.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then Modok's like, no!
This is very similar. Remember when Iron Man was picking up that tank in that issue we did? Because he's like, "A, your androids would not move in this way, nor would they press your fear, your near." Wait, what does he say? Nor would they press your near overwhelming attack, but Namor does, for Namor is a man.
Yes, love it. You see Modok's feet flying through the air. It's cool.
His stubby little feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we cut back to Doom and Cindy Jones.
Right.
What do they do?
Doom's like, she doesn't know what's going on. She's like, the cube, you little fool. Don't you see? I must have the cube. And so then Submariner comes in. Doom, if your life holds any value to you, You dare not move any closer. I released the cube short moments ago. Even now, it's unleashed energy builds to destruction. And so basically, Doom gives up, and they take off in the jet, right?
Namor, he finally listens to Namor. He's like, all right. Well, Namor and Cindy Jones climb back up into the jet, and Doom's still down there deliberating what to do, you know?
Right,
and
right.
But he finally agrees.
And this is some great Marvel storytelling where we got a giant close-up of his face, and the next one, we just see him climbing up the ladder, and the next one, obviously the jet's taking off, and he's in it. So it's really cool.
Because one of the reasons he wanted the cube, he's thinking here, perhaps I may have made my hideously scarred face human once again.
Right,
perhaps I've left this armor behind forever.
Right.
Yes, but only perhaps. Now it shall never be. Doom remains Doom evermore.
Yeah, I love it.
And they fly away in the ship. And then they get away. They emerge out of the water. And then the cosmic cube explodes.
Yep.
And blows up the AIM headquarters. But oddly enough, like Modok, he doesn't die here. We see him elsewhere.
I know.
So, and the cosmic cube, like I said, comes back as well, which I'll get to a little bit later. So yeah, next we see Doom standing on the street. They're in New Orleans. Well, that's nice.
Yeah. Yep.
And Namor and Cindy Jones has her armor on Namor, and they're just chatting on the street beneath a street lamp. What are they talking about, Mike-El?
Well, basically, Doom is like, take good care of this girl, Namor. She saved my life. And then he basically is like, well, look, he's like, he brings up the fact that Namor's memory is gone, which I already forgot about. But yeah. He's like, you remember, your memory is gone, and you know not what you've done. Yet I do feel indebted because there may indeed be that thing called fate. And perhaps I am what I am for some higher purpose. Because of that, I'll give you a warning, Namor. And he basically warns him about, what's his name?
Kenner.
Kenner. That the man who struck me was intent on killing you. My records seem to have been tampered with, for I've since found he was not the man I hired. Think on it, my friend. You may discover enemies you've lost. At any rate, at least you've gained a friend. There you go.
Look at that.
Yep.
Doom being friendly. So then Doom disappears into the mist, just New Orleans, and Cindy Jones and Namor are still standing there, arm in arm, and of course they go back to make sweet, sweet love.
Yep. The end.
That's where it ends. And then next issue, Namor's 50th issue, surprises galore, including the return of an old friend.
Is it Kenner? You think it's Kenner?
No, it's not Kenner. We never see Kenner. He's been burned to ashes.
All right. Okay.
So that's the Submariner. So this, of course, was written by Jerry Conway. We've talked about Conway many times on this podcast. But he wrote issues 41 through 49 of the Submariner, and this was from 71 to 72. This was some of his earliest work at Marvel. In 71, he was also doing some work on Iron Man, Hulk, and he wrote the first story of Man-Thing in 1971 as well. But then right after this is when, this was his final issue of Submariner. This, I believe, was April of 72. And then by August of 72, he started The Amazing Spider-Man. And,
nice.
And he did that until 1975. And, of course, that's the death of Gwen Stacy and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, what'd you think of Conway's writing here?
I actually really liked it, especially considering he was, 12? He was 19, wasn't he?
I can confirm that, but yeah, keep talking about it. I'll confirm.
But yeah, basically, I don't know. I mean, I know that when I was growing up, Conway had kind of a bad reputation. Harlan Ellison called him the worst writer in the industry and all that. But I always liked his run on Spectacular Spider-Man and Web of Spider-Man. And then I went back and read his Amazing Run. I like that. And it's every time I read a Jerry Conway comic, I really like it. And I like the writing in this one, the dialogue, the narration, everything.
Like you said earlier, it's very much like a Silver Age book in a lot of ways.
Right.
And it's kind of weird because I would say normally I would say it's overwritten in a way, almost stilted language and stuff. Mm-hmm. But we are dealing with Doom and Namor. Right. So I think it fits, even the narration is kind of really highfalutin, but I think it fits.
Yeah, like I know that all the guys were imitating Stan Lee at this point, but I enjoy this more than I would more than I would enjoy Roy Thomas, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
This year. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And you were correct. He was not yet 20 when he's doing this.
Wow.
He wouldn't turn 20 for a couple of months yet. His birthday's in September, and this was like April. So there you go. How about that?
Yeah. Good for him.
What were you doing when you were 20, Mike?
I was just thinking about it. Nothing close to this. That's for sure.
I had a paper route. All right, here we go.
Me too.
But yeah, I like the writing here. It's like I said, it's not like it's not flowy and effortless. It's kind of like forced and highfalutin, but it still works. I think it's fine.
It's fine, yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, when you compare it to like Roy Thomas or something, holy hell, is it good? It's really good.
Yep.
The artist here, Gene Colan, we've never talked about him on the show, but he's one of the greats of comic book art. He was born in 1926 in the Bronx. Sadly, he passed away in 2011 at the age of 84.
Wow.
His first comics work was actually in 1944. It was a summer gig. He drew a story for something called Wings Comics, like an aerial... I guess war story maybe. And then he joined the service for World War II. He originally joined the Marine Corps, but I guess he wasn't technically old enough yet, so his dad pulled him out. And then once he became 18, he joined for real. He joined the Army Air Corps, and he was supposed to be a gunner for like a bomber or an artillery gunner.
Okay.
And then the war ended, so he didn't see any combat. But after he got out of the service in 1946, he got a job at Timely Comics. And he said in those days, you just called up the art director, made an appointment, showed him your sample, and they hired him. And
wow,
that's how he met Stan Lee for the first time, because Stan Lee was also working at Timely.
Right.
After Timely, because there was a big downturn in the industry and they laid off a bunch of staff, so he got let go and he worked for National Comics. And what would they become, Mike-El?
DC.
And then he did work for Atlas.
Yep.
And that would become Marvel.
Right.
And he was working for DC when Stan Lee lured him over from Marvel to come to Marvel in the early 60s. And he, well, maybe not in the early 60s, but in the 60s. I can't remember when he first came over. But when he met with Stan Lee, he came over to Stan Lee's house and he was doing something for Stan Lee, some project. And he said, I want you over here at Marvel. Come join me at Marvel. And he said, I'm not just going to leave DC. I mean, you got to give me some incentive to just come over. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it. And Stan says, well, I can't give you more money. I mean, let's face it. Eventually, DC is just going to fire you and then I'll hire you. And he says, all right, Stan, but I'll stay at DC. So then the next day, Stan Lee called him and said, all right, I'll give you more money.
Wow. Interesting.
So he said Lee was just trying to bluff him to see if he'd come over. So he got more money out of Stan Lee, that little weasel.
Yeah.
So one thing about Lee, though, is he always had a good working relationship with Colan. And in that era, Lee was trying to get everyone to mimic Jack Kirby or Steve Ditko.
Right.
And he did not do that with Colan. He just said Gene could do what he wanted. He just let Gene do his own stuff. Huh. I mean, you definitely see some Kirby influence here, but not to the extreme of others, I would say. But
yeah, definitely some Kirby, because like I said, there was that one shot of Doom from behind that's like textbook Marvel style. And even when I was a kid, sometimes when I'd see Gene Colan's art, I would think it was Jack Kirby.
Oh.
So there's definitely some similarity, you know?
And then in 1969, he and Lee co-created the Falcon.
Ah, right.
Who was the first African-American superhero.
Right.
See, this is tricky because people nowadays, they hear African-American, they just think, oh, that means, no. Black Panther was African.
Good point. Good point. Yeah.
That's the tricky part. But Sam, what's his last name? The Falcons?
Sam Wilson.
Sam Wilson. He was American. So there you go. That's African-American.
There you go.
There's the tricky part there. And then he's probably most famous for drawing Daredevil back then. He did 84 issues from issue 20 to 157, and that was a span of 13 years from 1966 to 1979. He actually drew Iron Man issue 1 in 1968.
Okay, I think I knew that. Yep.
Yeah, like he didn't stay on that title. He just did issue 1.
Really?
Okay. Interesting.
But didn't he do a bunch of issues of Tales of Suspense before that with Iron Man?
Possibly.
Okay.
I do not know.
Yeah.
Because I never keep track of that stuff. Tales of Suspense, I never know which one's Iron Man's in and which one's Thor's in. You know what I mean? So
there's ways to find out, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. He did the entire 70-issue run of Tomb of Dracula.
Whoa, okay. I didn't know he did the whole run. That's cool.
Yep, from 72 to 79, and he really wanted to do it. Stan Lee actually gave the gig, I think, to Bill Everett first, if I remember properly. And but Colan really wanted to do it, so he drew up his own issue of it or whatever, and gave it to Stan. And Stan called him back and says, "All right, it's yours." And he ended up doing the whole run. And during that run, he created Blade with Marv Wolfman. They co-created Blade.
That's true. Yep.
The vampire hunter. Then he did 26 issues of Howard the Duck as well.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
From 76 to 79. He left Marvel in 1981. Would you care to guess why, Mike-El?
I believe he went to DC.
Yeah, but why did he leave Marvel?
Oh, he got into an argument with Jim Shooter.
That is correct. He hated Jim Shooter. And Shooter was making his life miserable, so he said, "I'm out of here." And he went to DC. And then from 81 to 86, he was basically the primary artist of Batman, Mike-El.
Yes, that's true.
He only did 10 issues on the Batman title from 340 to 383. But he did 35 issues of Detective Comics from the span of 510 to 567. Right. So in those years, he was like the lead artist. If you were reading Batman in those years, he was probably the most famous artist of that time.
Absolutely, yeah. Like when I had a bunch of those issues when I was a kid, and they were almost all Gene Colan. Yeah.
Then he did a bunch of stuff, obviously. So we're not going to do it. But then in 2009, at the age of 82, he actually drew the 40-page Captain America issue 601.
Yes, and I bought it, and from my memory, it was not particularly great.
It won an award of some sort. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he did the issue in a weird style. Like he used like a weird technique. Like what's that called? Like not charcoal, but some kind of weird technique. But I don't know. I didn't personally like it, but yeah, that's cool. You know.
Yeah, I did read that he did some techniques with like wash or something they would call it.
Yeah.
Like wash over the book. But yeah, so then sadly he died at 84. But that's pretty impressive at 82. Still drawing.
Right.
Books. Because, yeah, good stuff. So I love Gene Colan's art. It's how would you describe it? It's like very moody. And we got to give credit here to Sam Giacoa, too, as the inker. He was tremendous here. Right? Or Frank Giacoa.
Yeah, Frank Giacoa. Yeah, what's his name? Gene Colan, he's never been one of my favorites, but he's definitely like for the right comic, like for Dracula, he's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for Batman, he's good. Even like the Iron Man stuff he did that I've seen is definitely good. And yeah, this is I definitely like the art in this issue. It's classic Marvel to me, you know?
Yeah, when I think Colan, though, I think like more like almost gothic, kind of like heavy shadows, a lot of blacks.
Right.
Definitely creates an atmosphere in the book.
Right.
He's perfectly suited, I would say, like you said, for horror comics. Just the feel he brings to his stuff. And I think his art here is great. Just like he's mentioned, classic Marvel punching and posing and everything. There were a couple times where I wished he would pull the camera back a bit. There's a lot of extreme close-ups and stuff. I would have liked to, get a little more distance on a few. Yeah,
I can only guess that maybe he was rushing and he's like, oh, well, if I just draw an extreme close-up, that'll be easier to draw, Yeah,
that's true. Less background. And there was a couple weird compositions, like when Doom was fighting some androids, like he would do this thing. He did it a couple times. You mentioned the one where like Namor's punching the androids and they're coming at the viewer. So their body parts are obscuring things. And it worked in that Namor one because it was framed nice. But there's one of them where Doom's doing it, and like the android's leg is almost right in front of Doom's face. It's kind of like the composition is weird.
Okay.
But it's still great stuff. I loved it. So I don't know. Anything else about any other Gene Colan? Like obviously you were reading that Batman stuff.
Yes.
Did you think he's one of the better Batman artists? I've never seen any of his Batman
stuff. Definitely. Like when I was a kid, that was one of the first guys I saw draw Batman, and I always thought it was perfect for that, for something like Batman. So yeah, I've always, I've known his art like a long time, and I've always thought he was great.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yep.
Think we'll ever do a Tomb of Dracula?
Oh, I think it might already be in the works.
For next October?
Could be.
Next Halloween?
Who knows? Yeah.
All right, Mike-El, any final thoughts on this Submariner issue?
Only that, I've read a bunch of comics around this era written by other writers, and I was not excited to go on and read more, but I definitely want to read more Jerry Conway Submariners.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah.
And let me just say this about the Cosmic Cube. It does come back, and the next issue I will pick features the Cosmic Cube again.
Ooh, so interesting. Okay.
That's why I picked this one.
Interesting.
So, all right, 1 out of 10. What would you give it?
I'd give it a solid 7.5.
7.5.
Yep.
It's tough. I wasn't as enamored with Jerry Conway as I didn't like the writing as much as you.
Okay.
But I love the Jerry Conway art, or the Jerry Conway art, the Gene Colan art.
Sure.
But there was a lot of punches, a lot of beaten up robots. But again, it seemed like it wasn't the greatest, though. I'll go 7 as well.
Okay.
I wanted to give it an 8, but I think that's too much. I'll go 7.
Sure. I get my standards are slightly lower only because in 1972, I know that this is better than the average comic at that time.
Yeah, it's really good, and I love the Colan's art, but I had some issues, but still really good. So 7, solid 7.
All right.
Next week, Mike-El.
Next week, we are returning to a book I believe we've already done twice.
Oh, Daredevil?
Holding off on my choice because you picked it a few times, but we're finally going to get back to The Avengers.
Oh, all right.
Number 175, featuring not only the Guardians of the Galaxy, but Korvac. This is the Korvac quest.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I never read any of this. This is Jim Shooter again, right?
Yes, it is. James Shooter and David Michelinie writing, and then on pencils. Actually, this one's dead. Unfortunately, a bunch of issues around this time had George Perez and Sal Buscema, but this one is drawn by D. Wenzel, but I wonder if that's just a pseudonym because it looks like pretty freaking good art. So I wonder if it's just someone, maybe it's like two guys drew it and they just made up a name for it. I don't know.
Well, yeah, because I've never heard of that artist. But you know what I'll do, Mike-El, is I'll research it.
There you go.
Avengers 175.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I am excited. So.
And I'm pumped because I've been trying to, slot in every Guardians of the Galaxy appearance, but it's been hard because they did like 12 issues in a row of Avengers, and I knew I couldn't do them all, so I had to pick just one, so this is it.
I almost picked a book with Guardians in it, and it wasn't the Avengers. I can't remember what it was now.
Was it Marvel 2-in-1?
No, I don't think. Were they ever in like the Defenders or anything?
Oh, yeah, they were for sure.
Okay, then it was probably a Defenders title.
Huh.
But anyway, so next week, Avengers 175. What year did you say that's from?
It's from 1970. Where is the year here? 78.
Oh, all right, 78.
Yep.
So yeah, just a couple more years after that, Jim Shooter pissed everybody off.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's something to keep track of. Now, Mike-El, before the show, you were telling me that you've started another podcast.
Yes, for those that don't know, so this is Flea Market Fantasy. We also do Here Comes the Spider Cast, which are two official comic book syndicate podcasts that you can find on Spotify. But
you also did the Quasar.
We used to do Quasar Chronology, which has been temporarily halted, but we might pick it up one day. We'll see.
Oh, I thought you guys stopped because you already talked about everything you had to say about Quasar.
Well, we covered every Quasar appearance before he got his own series. So we stopped in 1983, but technically we could pick it back up at Quasar number 1 one day.
How many issues did the Quasar series have? 3?
60.
Wow, that's way more than I. Yeah,
yep. So there's many more episodes that potentially could be on the way. But then anyway, besides those, I participate in something called Nerdy Book Club, which we turned into a podcast. It started out as a monthly book club at a comic book shop, Detroit Comics. But then I started recording it, so Jolie and I turned it into a podcast, and now we're reviving that online. So that's monthly. And on top of that, now we also do a Windsor Public Library book club that, of course, we can only meet virtually because of the quarantine. So I secretly recorded our first episode, and that will probably be turned into a monthly podcast as well.
Secretly recorded.
Yep.
And how many people participate in this book club that you're doing?
The secret one that we just started is only 4, but the Nerdy Book Club is like 15. So
4 people discussing what book?
Good question. The first one we did is Kingdom Come by Mark Waid and Alex Ross.
I don't know what that is.
Really? Oh, it's too bad it's in 1996 because we could have reviewed it on Flea Market Fantasy.
Like, what's going on there?
It's a really famous story. It's basically set in the future at a time when Superman has kind of retired, and they're all older, right? Like, Batman's an old man, and he's wearing kind of like this armor, and Wonder Woman is no longer the queen of Paradise Island, and they've been replaced by all these younger, more violent superheroes. They're kind of like inspired by Image comics, right? Like really violent and whatever. And so the point of the story is for the old DC superheroes to kind of come back and prove that their way is the better way, But it goes on from there. So it's really cool.
And I hope at the end, the new generation rises up and kills the old folks.
Not quite.
Oh, man. No. All right. So, anyway. All right. So, if you don't have enough Mike-EL in your life, you can get a little bit more.
I was once told by a girl that I like to hear myself talk, and now I am proving her right. So, yeah. Like we said, if you want to hear any more episodes, we are on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all under Comic Book Syndicate to make it as confusing as possible. But yeah, definitely search Comic Book Syndicate Flea Market Fantasy. And we do a new episode every Tuesday, and we review a different Bronze Age comic every week. So, this has been number 39 of Flea Market Fantasy, and until next Tuesday, disperse!